about to come your way. So we just record these calls, as you probably know, so that people can get a chance to watch them again. And quite a few people do. It's usually up by about Monday or Tuesday the following week. And this, of course, is the weekly Friday Zoom meeting of the Cumbria Arts and Culture Network. My name is Tom Spate. I produce and chair these. And we aim to just find out what's going on around the county, really, and interesting stuff as well. And champion and kind of offer some little connections come out of these meetings as well. So it's always really nice to see those things develop as well. Hello, Hazel. And Holly, I think you're there as well. So good to have you with us. So this morning we are going to, and there's captions available on Zoom, by the way, of course. Anybody who'd like to have captions, Zoom automatically provides those as well. We're going to hear from Joe Wood and Holly Clark from the Arts Council. There they are. Joe's on the Wirral. I'm not sure where Holly is. Who are talking about some sessions coming up. I know particularly in Barrow, but also in Whitehaven, I think, in a bit later on, where you can meet the Arts Council and find out how you can possibly make a better application, perhaps, to them to acquire some public money to do the art that you want to do. We're going to hear from Lewis Martins, who runs Lakeland Arts. He's there at Windermere Jetty this morning. Beautiful place if you've never been there. I was there about 10 days ago. I was just saying, a stunning, award-winning architectural beauty in Windermere, right on the edge of the lake there. I recommend a little steamboat trip as well to the islands and around the islands. So Lakeland Arts got some money from the lottery recently, about £250,000, and I thought it would be a good opportunity to chat to the boss to see what he's going to do with the cash and find out where that's going as well. And Kate's going to fill us in on a bit on what she's been doing. She was at a meeting at Barrow yesterday, which I think one or two other people were at, knitting together the sector and finding out what everyone's doing. And also we're going to find out, most importantly, what Iona does on a Thursday night. And I think you're going to be impressed. Thursday night was last night, of course. Iona has got a story to tell us all about that and some pictures too. So that is the plan for this morning. At any time, just pop stuff into chat. It's great if people got questions for people that are talking. So I'll try and spot hands raised, etc., etc. And we'll get going. Here comes George. George is a bit late this morning. George Colkitto, who is our Scotland correspondent. He's on his way through the door now. Right. So without further ado, Kate, what have you been up to?
I've been bouncing around the county this week, which has been a little bit exhausting, but great. There's no substitute for actually seeing people and talking to them and listening to them, is there? So before I just say a little bit about some of the people that I've met, just the teeniest update about the See It to Be It project. See It to Be It is our partnership project that we're delivering across Cumbria with a whole range of cultural and educational organisations, which aims to support more young Cumbrians into creative careers. We're doing that thanks to Arts Council funding, but also money from Western London Fairness Council and Cumberland Council too. So we've got 2 years left to run on this project, and it's going fantastically well. It's exhausting, it's exciting, it's new. Some things go brilliantly, some things don't, but that is kind of what we're doing. We're trying to find new ways of working together across the county that help us tackle the issues that really concern us. And of course, the difficulty of pursuing a creative career in Cumbria is well known and common to all of us. So that's what See It to Be It is all about. A couple of weeks ago, we had our big meet for young creatives. We had about 90 people at Tully. And we were the aim of the session, which was to demystify the culture sector for people right at the start of their career. We had a really good day, and we've come away with loads of things, loads of suggestions, loads of ways that we can help young people more effectively. So as a team at See It to Be It, we are digesting that and trying to work out, okay, what can we do differently as a result of that really good day. I have personally been involved in the Dream Placement Programme, which is run by the Centre for Leadership Performance, one of our partners, and we have been working with Art Gene in Barrow, with Soundwave in Whitehaven, and Florence Arts in Egremont, all of whom have hosted students aged about 16, 17 through the Dream Placement Programme. They hosted them for a week. And the See It to Be It project has helped those organisations be part of a programme which is otherwise dominated by other industries. Generally, the creative industries are a big gaping hole in that kind of programme. So that's one of the things that we've been doing. And it was really great to bring those students together and hear about their experience in those cultural organisations. We've kicked off some of our partner projects as part of See It to Be It. So Queer Cumbria delivered a sort of workshop networking session at Tully also last weekend, and we've got more to come at Brewery Arts and also Soundwave, and various other partners will be delivering activities which are about creating more opportunities for young creatives to take those early steps in their careers. We've also been at careers events. We've been to Kendal College to their Creative Careers Networking event, various secondary schools where we've been talking about all the different jobs that you could follow in the creative industries and helping people make contacts and take those early steps. We're developing our website so that we're creating a sort of hub of all the opportunities for young people so that if you're a young creative, you know exactly where to go for all the information you need. And that's involving some little films about people who've already made it in their career and talking about their journeys. Another thing that we've been doing is delivering the Pivot programme, again funded by Westmoreland and Furness Council and Cumberland, and that is a programme for 16 creatives and people running small, tiny micro organisations in the culture sector, which is helping them to work out what is it they need to do to develop their practice or sustain their organisation, make it more resilient. So that we're in the early stages of that programme. We've got 16 people that we're now working with. Personally, I've also been going to some various meetings. Recently, I went to Liverpool to a meeting of the Great North Creative, which is a coming together of all the combined authority, mayoral authorities across the north, a creative and cultural representative from each one of those. I've been going for Cumbria because we don't actually have that we don't have a person in a county council, because we don't have one of those anymore, who can take that overview of Cumbria. So I've been going along to those, making sure that a Cumbrian voice is heard and that a rural, more isolated perspective is put forward so that it's not dominated entirely by the big metropolitan areas. And I'll also be feeding that back to our unitary authorities here and colleagues across the sector. Yesterday, I was in Barrow for the Arts Council roundtable meeting. Joe, I have to say that it wasn't a round table, it was a rectangular table, clearly. There you go, very definitely not a round table, but we had a really good discussion with organisations delivering activity. Largely the NPOs, the bigger funded organisations, are talking about all the ways that people are supporting artists, the projects they're running, just sharing information and listening to each other, with the Arts Council convening that discussion. People from libraries, people from Art Gene, Full of Noises, Barrow Full, Signal for Film and Media, and the council. So it was a really good couple of hours with everybody there. And
Okay.
just brilliant to be in Barrow. There is so much happening in Barrow. I love to go.
Is
However,
that Art Gene? Is that Art Gene where that picture was
that
taken?
is Art Gene. Yeah.
And
Yeah,
as Sue noticed, it's an all-woman meeting.
there was in fact Glenn from Full of Noises. Poor chap, you can see him hiding in the back.
Was he taking the photo?
No, he's back left, next to Joe, next to the big
Oh
circle.
yeah.
Yeah, that's Glenn.
Oh, there he is.
But you're quite right. There was a lot of women. Anyway,
Right.
that was a
Okay.
really
Thank you.
good session. That's what I've been up to.
Thank you for being so busy on our behalves, Kate. I hope it's been a good week for you and various trips here, there, and everywhere. Now, before we hear from Holly and Joe from Arts Council, and I know either Holly or Joe or both, I can't remember, have got to go at 10 o'clock, so I'm just conscious of the clock. Another great event took place in Barrow yesterday evening, and Iona was at it. Tell us, Iona, and we've got visual evidence of this. Tell us, Iona, what excitement you did last night.
Well, to put everyone out of their misery, I went to see a musical, specifically We Will Rock You, which was at Furnace Academy, being put on by Abbey Musical Society. So I think it's on for another couple of nights, although tickets are hot property. I can share some pics. So here we go. If anyone's not familiar with We Will Rock You, you'll be surprised to learn that it features the music of a little unknown band called Queen. And I don't want to give anything away, but essentially the plot is kind of like, it's a dystopian future and music has been banned. And yeah, hilarity ensues.
And was it
So
good?
that was excellent. So the original musical was written by Ben Elton, so there's a lot of like comedy and stuff in there. Yeah, amazing singing, great costumes. I love musicals anyway, so I feel like I'm, a bit biased towards how much enjoyment I had out of it. But yeah, would
Was it
recommend.
full? Full?
Yes, packed. Yep.
And obviously, Barry's got the challenge at the moment with no forum of a community space in which to perform big stuff like this. So I know they've used the town hall in Barrow. This was at the Furnace Academy, was it? So it's a
Yep.
decent stage, decent sort of performance space there.
Yeah. I mean, I'd never been there before. I was at, not to brag, but I was at the last one of the last shows at the Forum, which was Legally Blonde. So it like obviously it's rubbish that people are coming up against challenges in terms of like where to put on performances and stuff, but it's really cool to see stuff still happening and things still going and people, they might not have the venue they want, but still being able to put things on and like I mean, as of last night, the Saturday night was sold out, and there were only a handful of tickets left for the Sunday. So obviously, people are, buying tickets and supporting live performance and stuff. So it's just really cool to see, and it was, yeah,
Great
great
stuff.
show.
All right, thank you very much indeed. I'm glad you enjoyed yourself. I
Thanks.
saw a really good Cockermouth school production of The Wizard of Oz a few weeks ago. It was absolutely astonishing, and really interesting to find out that the school basically they have to fund that production themselves in a sort of the school doesn't give them money to do that. The production has to make the tickets work and the ticket prices work itself. So I thought that was interesting. Money's going as far as priorities as schools are concerned. But also, I think the tickets were £14 for a school production, which I thought, blimey, that's quite a lot. But actually, it was really worth it. And I thought, credit where credit is due for that as well. Right. Well, I'm glad you had a good time, Iona. Let's cross to Joe and to Holly now and listen to what you can find out when you go along to an Arts Council session, both in Barrow, but also in Whitehaven. So who's going to go first?
I'll jump in first if that's all right. Hi, everybody. I hope you can hear me all right. I'm Jo Wood, and I'm, as Tom said, here from the Arts Council. Holly Clark's also on the call, who I'll let her introduce herself in a minute, and also our colleague Naomi Garnett, who supports our work in Cumbria. Some of you may know her from being Cumbrian based and being in the museum sector. So yeah, first of all, I'm Jo Wood. I'm a relationship manager at the Arts Council. I focus in the visual arts, so painting, drawing, sculpture, photography, all of those things, craft, which I love. And also music, and I'm also have a focus on the development work that we do specifically in Cumbria and in Barrow. So that's kind of my job there. Holly, did you want to come in and say hello?
Yeah, hi, I'm Holly. I think I recognise a few faces on the call actually. And I am the Priority Place relationship manager for the former Copeland area, but also I'm a combined arts relationship manager. And I also look after the Creative People and Places programme along the West Coast. So I'm going to update on my little bit, on my Copeland bit, on the events that we've got coming up. But I'll let Jo jump in first about the Barrow event.
Yeah, just before I come on to that, I was just going to say a little bit about Priority Place because we throw that word around quite a little bit, and I know some of you will be familiar with it, some of you might not be. So I think a few years ago now, the Arts Council identified 54 places up and down the country where I think we'd identified the kind of investment and funding that we'd put there, and the engagement was really too low, and yet there was some sort of grassroots of opportunity there. So it seemed like a good place to kind of focus our energies. So that kind of comes with a few sort of strategic interventions really, and I suppose a bit of extra resource behind it. So Holly and I have got the privilege of being able to spend a bit more time chatting to people in the space and kind of putting events and things on. I've only been doing the Barrow job for I think it's nearly a year now, actually. It's gone really quick, and I think the thing that I heard lots to start with is that we just want a space where we can sort of chat to each other, find other partners for things, speak to the Arts Council. So we thought quite early on it'd be really nice to try and put on a couple of events, one in Barrow and one in on the West Coast. So the first one of those is happening 2 weeks yesterday, so the 12th of March. We're holding it at Signal Film and Media in Abbey Road in Barrow, which I'm sure you'll all be aware of. Thank you, Iona, for posting the link. We're hoping it's just going to be a really friendly evening. We're sort of aiming it at anybody really who, artists, creatives, small arts organisations, charities, people who might want to just find out a bit more about the Arts Council. We're going to try not to use too much Arts Council language, but at the same time kind of deliver 5 top tips for planning a really good project with that kind of project grants application form in mind. So it sort of will hopefully fit when you come to apply and yeah, demystify it a little bit, maybe just a few talks. I think Kate is kind of coming to say a few words as well. And I think Signal will obviously introduce themselves, and then plenty of time afterwards to just chat with each other and with us. And there'll also be an opportunity to sign up for a one-to-one session the following day on the Friday at the library in Barrow. So if anybody has sort of started developing a specific project idea and they'd just like a bit more one-to-one support, we can do that on the day, or we can take it online and go at a later date as well. So lots of different opportunities to get involved. Holly, did you want to say anything specific about yours?
Yes, so we'll be mirroring that exact event, but in Copeland on Thursday, the 23rd of April. And again, it'll be an evening event, 6 till 8:30. At both events, we're providing some dinner as well. So I think at Rose Hill, it's vegan chili and rice. So we get fed as well. And I think that the main thing really is that we're just trying to keep it quite relaxed, aren't we? We'll have a little bit of an icebreaker. Don't be scared. It's a good one. And we just kind of want to create a bit more of a social feel, I think, because we want to get to know people as well, rather than kind of keeping it very formal. So it should be a good event. Yeah. And so same with Joe's. Rose Hill will be saying a few things, and Kate will be at that one as well, talking about See It to Be It. Yes, I think that's about it.
Will there be a link for the Rose Hill?
Yeah, there will.
It's not live yet, is it? I don't think
it's not live yet. No, we'll do the same that we've done with Barrow. We'll probably release it once Barrow's finished. We'll release the Rose Hill one about a month before the event takes place, and we've just got to renew all of that and put a new Eventbrite link up.
And I think the Barrow one is filling up quite quickly. So if you want to come, or you want to obviously share that with people, or people that you think might be interested in it, be quick. And if there is, I mean, it's great if there's lots of demand, and if there is, hopefully it's something we can do again. We've called it, by the way, Creatives Connect. So that name will be used in both places, and hopefully we can maybe sort of use that as a bit of a brand then for future things that we might look to do.
Yeah, and there's about 50 spaces for both events, isn't there?
And what do you think, what is the biggest barrier to people, applying to Arts Council successfully? Because I've been in 1,000 meetings where people have lamented the fact that they've spent hours putting in funding applications and haven't succeeded, and this, that, and the other, and people sort of saying, and Grantium's rubbish, blah, 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 blah. I know Grantium is possibly changing sometime quite soon, according to what I've read in the press, Hodge report, obviously, that came out. But what are the, if you had sort of a couple of top tips or whatever to people who wanted to have a productive relationship with the Arts Council, and I guess what I mean by that is accessing some money to do things that they want to do, while we're together this morning, what would you say to that?
I mean, in terms of barriers, where do you begin with the Arts Council application forms? I mean, it starts from even understanding what the Arts Council is and what it does. I mean, there's so many people, we still haven't reached enough people in terms of understanding what we do and what we can offer. So that's the first barrier. The second is, how do I put a project together that I can then transfer onto an application form that the Arts Council is going to read and think is going to be really good? Then the barrier is the system itself. I mean, there are so many barriers, and all we can do really is, like you say, kind of build a relationship with artists. It's hard for us. That's why we're doing events like this, really, because it means that we can reach a large amount of artists. They know who we are. We can hand out our email addresses, and as and when they need us, they can get in contact with us. But sometimes it's that understanding that there's also people behind the Arts Council, and that it isn't just full of robots, at computers, and understanding that we are there to help them, really. So it's kind of just building that relationship, and that's what we want to do in these spaces. It's been a long time coming.
Okay. Joe, would you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think the same as Holly, really. I think there's a lot of myths out there as well. And I've kind of actually had proper conversations with people who've told me things that just don't exist. And it's just that perception sometimes, isn't it, to get across that first hurdle. And I think there's that perception that it's really difficult to apply to project grants, and you have to be a certain level, and you have to have done a certain this or a certain that. And, none of that's written anywhere. It's just all what people think, I guess. So, and I suppose, like Holly said, the only way we can really kind of face that head on is by getting out there and chatting to people and showing them what is really going on. And there's loads of challenges, not least not having enough money to fund everything we want to fund. But, that's obviously common across the world at the moment. Obviously access barriers in terms of the grant making system, which we are, again, behind the scenes working so hard. We're totally aware of the issues with that. It could be so much easier to use than it is. So I think just getting out there, and just trying to at least break some of those barriers down, and having that ability to be able to do that in these two areas in Cumbria, specifically, which will hopefully kind of bleed across the whole region.
Sure. If anyone's got any quick questions for either Holly or Joe, then stick your hand up. Kate commenting there that very much. What's made you write that, Kate? Do you think because of the perception that everybody thinks it's just about the cash?
I think that is a perception, and it's easy to feel that way, especially if you've put loads of time into an application and it's not been successful. It's easy, I'd sympathise. I've done it, but I also personally, and CACN has benefited massively from the Arts Council support that extends well beyond just money. And I think it's these opportunities to get together and speak to you and meet you as people is really positive, and that's what I think makes the difference. It leads to better work and
Pete,
probably more successful applications.
Pete, tell us so has Grantium changed already from your experience? I know you just put in an application for something.
Yeah, the new form that I used for the R&D seems much more user friendly than the Grantium one I used 4 or 5 years ago. Still a few tweaks, I think, but you've got to cover everybody in the form, haven't you? So if it doesn't fit for me, it probably fits for somebody else, etc.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
just a note there, Holly, from Christine in chat there for you to have a quick look at as well. Do you think so, Joe and Holly? I'm going to put you on the spot now. Let's Create. We're kind of 6 years into Let's Create now, which people will be familiar with is the Arts Council strategy, 10-year strategy. And if you don't know what the priorities that lays out before you put an application in, I would strongly suggest that you do, because that's what the strategy of the Arts Council is at the moment. Do you think there's a possibility that could evolve over the next couple of years or so, or do you think that's set fair for a few years still?
Well, it's hard to say. I think with the outcome of the HOD review, Arts Council does tend to change its strategy every 10 years. I don't know how much it's going to change with the outcomes of the reviews that have taken place. I mean, what the strategy stands for essentially won't change, but I think potentially what will change is how we deliver it.
Right.
Because we've made it so complicated. I feel that, so I can't even imagine how other people feel when there's a gazillion outcomes and there's all those investment principles. I think we've overthought it, and it would be good to see us just have a bit of an overhaul of that, which makes it easier for applicants. But what it stands for, I can't see changing, because I think that's where Arts Council are. So and Hodge said the same thing, but it's how we deliver it, and I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Joe, any thoughts from you?
No, well said, Holly. And I'm a big fan of Let's Create. I think being able to kind of reach more people and do more things and make that more accessible and really do that on the ground and not just say it feels really important to me. from a working class background, you know, and somebody who perhaps felt some of those barriers when I was growing up. So
Yeah,
very
I mean,
passionate.
I can stick my neck out. I think Cumbria's done well out of Let's Create, and is still doing well out of Let's Create, in the way that it's trying to reach all corners of no matter what village, town, you know, city size there is. You know, Cumbria's full of small places that I think are benefiting in different ways from Arts Council funding. And there was a great piece in the Guardian a few weeks ago about FON, Full of Noises, which I keep banging on about. Obviously, Andrew used to run Full of Noises on this call, but it was a great example of a real sense of an organisation that does quite obscure art in some ways, quite specialised interests, but does it accessibly, makes it accessible to attend, and does it with a spirit and a kind of soul that is open and generous. I think I'm thinking of the food that I saw Amy cooking when I was there. So the guy came up from the Guardian, from the South Coast, I think, and spent a couple of days there. And just, if you haven't seen that article, have a look at it and think, right, that's the sort of thing that Arts Council funds, amongst many other things. And why do they fund it? And what do we all get out of it? I'm conscious we're going to lose Holly and Joe shortly, but Kate.
So just one quick question finally then. So what do you say to somebody who lives, for example, in the Eden Valley, in miles from anywhere, trying to do their thing as a creative or running a tiny organisation, who hasn't been successful in any funding applications and isn't being catered for in these Creative Connect sessions that you've got coming up in the priority places? Because it's a real thing, isn't it? I can imagine there's a sense that the priority places matter. Of course they do, for reasons that we all understand. But what about me sitting in the middle of the Eden Valley? You know, what's next for those people? Quickly.
That's a tough one, Kate, because I know we've sort of briefly discussed this before. It is really hard because we've identified those priority places, and therefore they're the ones that get that resource, which is rightly so, because they're behind the rest of those other areas anyway. What I would say to those people, we can't deliver the way we deliver in priority places. We just don't have the resource to be able to do that. However, you will find NPOs dotted around in those places, and I would say go via an NPO. So, and a lot of the time they have direct contact with them. They say, look, I've been speaking to somebody. They'd be really interested in having a conversation with you. Some ways that's, unless you have a direct relationship with the Arts Council, it is easier. Sometimes you may have a relationship with a local national portfolio organisation, and therefore you could go via them to reach us. The main thing is reaching us. We can't do big things. We can't spend lots of time in those places, but we can still have one-on-one conversations.
Indeed. And is there any reason why somebody from Penrith couldn't attend a session in Whitehaven, for example?
No, if they can get there, absolutely they can attend. Of course, we want to attract those artists and organisations who live and work in those priority places, but it's still open to the rest of Cumbria.
That's important. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, and just to pick up on Anne's question, what's an NPO? Thank you to those that have answered it. I think we've got 13 NPOs in Cumbria. 12 or 13. I think it was 12. I think we've got 13 now, but I'll prepare to be corrected there. Thank you very much, Holly. And so just to remind again, the first session in Barrow on the March the
12th, Thursday, March 12th.
Thursday, March the 12th in Barrow, and Whitehaven is April the
30th, Thursday the 23rd of April.
Thursday the 23rd of April. So stick those in your diaries if you want to find out a bit more about Arts Council face to face. Thank you ever so much, Holly and Joe. And you could see Naomi as well. And do stick around if you want to. But thank you for sharing and taking those questions as well this morning. Lovely stuff. All right.
Lovely to see you all. Thank you.
Take it easy. Cheers.
Bye.
Right. So we are now going to cross to the lovely, beautiful Windermere Jetty Museum, where Lewis Martins is sitting patiently. He's the boss of Lakeland Arts, which runs a number of institutes across Cumbria, as I'm sure you know. I noticed that they very successfully got some money from the National Lottery, and that was announced, I think, earlier in January this year. So I thought, let's get Lewis on to see what he's going to splash the cash on and kind of explore the vision, because Lewis has been in charge there for about 18 months or so now, I think. And it's interesting to see what direction Lakeland Arts is headed at the moment. And I wanted to also notice that a Hepworth sculpture was coming back to Abbott Hall, and I wanted to ask him about that as well. So Lewis, very nice to have you with us. Thank you for joining us this morning. And I think Iona's going to pick up your slides for you, half dozen slides or so. And I'd ask you just to introduce yourself and take it away. Is Lewis there? Is he on mute?
You're on mute, Lewis.
There we go.
I think I'm no longer on mute. Apologies.
If we can hear you now, that's great. Off you go.
Great. My name's Lewis Martins. I'm the CEO of Lakeland Arts. I started with the organisation in April 2024, and I started as the Chief Operating Officer. I was asked to step in as acting CEO on the 18th of July. I'm very good with dates, it's embedded in my head. On the 18th of July, at that stage, it was about embarking on what would be a 3 to 5 year process for us in terms of what we would call stabilizing the organization, sort of financially, structurally, then moving on to a consolidation phase, which is the phase that we're in at this moment in time, and then starting to move towards growth. So basically building the foundation blocks in order that we could then move forward from an artistic point of view, but also from a financial point of view. The process has gone well. I'm in a very fortunate position of where the board offered me the role as CEO on a permanent basis in the autumn. That was notified in January. And I'm also extremely fortunate that, and I know, Tom, you're very kind about the person who's leading the organisation. All I'm really doing is steering, because we have a really good exec team. We have a really good members of staff, really committed, forward thinking, that want Lakeland Arts to succeed for the long term. So I hope that kind of sets the tone slightly. With regards to the Albert Hall site, so there was a master plan that was created for that Abbott Hall site that included what was known then as the Museum of Lakeland Life and Industry. That's now referred to as the Lakeland Museum. And that capital master plan, which was done, feasibility studies were undertaken. This is 2018, 2019. There was a lot of work done at that stage. COVID came along, match funding became extremely difficult. So therefore the full project had to be put on hold. There were minor works done with Abbott Hall, but that wasn't what the complete project was supposed to look like. Our National Lottery funding is to reopen that, reinvestigate that. How do those plans that were there from 6 years ago that had got the Abbott Hall site to REBA Stage 3, the cafe to REBA Stage 3 plus, let's say, how do those plans stack up today? Do they still meet the requirements of our communities, of us as Lakeland Arts, and how the world has sort of shifted? So the essence of this 244,000, which sounds like a lot, but in terms of a capital development, obviously it isn't. This is just a pre-development phase. This is about having the time and space to think boldly and think collaboratively with what the Abbott Hall site should actually become. And it's about strengthening our foundations, modernising our systems, testing ideas before any capital decisions are actually made. If we could move on to the next slide. So this is the Abbott Hall site. So there is only one building on there that doesn't currently exist, and that's number 6. Number 1 is Abbott Hall. Number 2 is the Lakeland Museum. Number 3 is actually the grammar school. Number 4 is what we call the lab, which is our storage area. Number 5 is also a storage area. Number 6 was the location back in 2019 of the proposed new cafe and catering facilities across site. You can see at building number 2, where that number 2 is, would be an archway that would actually link the sites together, as opposed to what it is now, which is a permanent building. And where that archway is actually glass sort of structures in that area there, so it would open it up. Currently, where the words Abbott Hall are, that's where the car park is. So the proposal would be to take that back to when it was a manor house and open it up. This is not widely shared. I'm just sharing this so people get an understanding of the size of the site, what the possibilities are. We need to now, as I've said, reinvestigate that, explore the options, engage our communities, engage with stakeholders. What does the community want? How is it going to help regeneration in that part of Kendal as well? And of course, one of the key things that we need to do at the same time is explore what the Lakeland Museum will look like, how we share that collection. Abbott Hall, making sure that Abbott Hall is totally accessible, whilst at this moment in time with the primary works that were done, it is accessible, but it's a real handful for our team. It's not a very dignified entrance. It's not a very dignified way for people with accessibilities to get around the site. We need to tackle that. We need to tackle sort of bespoke areas for our learning teams and our education teams. And then we also need to explore with regards to our stores. Lakeland Arts has 2 external storages. One storage is for our fine art, and that's the one that we need to look at as to how we could bring that back onto site. That external storage costs us circa £40,000 a year to store our high value art in the right conditions. How do we explore bringing that back into site, that also we can store it in the right conditions, but that it can also be sort of viewed and bring more of those collections to life. Digital is really important for us as well, and that's part of this project. If we move on to the next slide. So really, the project is three phases as we see it at this stage. So when we say capital development, it's not about going straight into a capital project. As I was trying to say earlier, it's about understanding what the possibilities are, not committing to a build. So we're exploring accessibility, how we can better serve our communities, how we can support Kendal. But really, this phase is all about gathering evidence, so we can really see what our options are as we move forward with regards to the development of that site. Digital and technology, this part of the project does fund the modernisation of our systems so we can operate efficiently, understand our audiences better, which is absolutely key for us. But we can also use this to also understand our audiences better across all our sites, because all our sites are linked. Environmental sustainability, that's also part of the project, coming up with that strategy and policy. This will ensure that we're planning responsibly, embedding biodiversity, climate resilience, and sustainable operations into our thinking from the start. Across all of the 3 strands, the emphasis is on preparing the organisation for the future, testing ideas, strengthening systems, building the knowledge we need, before any major decisions are made and before we embark in any future planning. Next slide, please. So what is this project? I've said it. We'll repeat. It's a research and preparation phase, a chance to modernize our systems, a space to test impactful sort of ideas, approaches. There will be workshops. It's also really important that these workshops are broad, and they're broad in age groups as well. This isn't just for now, this is for future generations and what are the needs. And it's a way to explore the possibilities, to actually develop, which is what we want, an impactful and inspiring site. Next slide, please. So what does this project mean for Kendal? Kendal is at the moment, Kendal is in a very fortunate position in a way. We have had 3 organisations within a very short period of time that have received National Lottery funding. That's a great advantage to us. We were the last ones to sort of apply. We are seeking advice, working together with the other sort of organisations who are 18 months to 2 years ahead of us.
Which ones are those, Lewis? Which ones are those? The other ones?
So that's the parish church, and it's Strickland Gatehouse.
Right.
We've also, Kendal is now is also putting in a bid to be the town of culture. Lakeland Arts are playing an integral part in that. We're also part of the Kendal Heritage Partnership, which is regards to all of the heritage sort of around Kendal, how we can all work together under really difficult circumstances to sort of take things forward with regards to art, culture and heritage. So we're looking at the project as this is for us, but it's for the community. More welcoming, accessible. We want this project to be at the heart of the community. We want the site to feel open. We want it to feel relevant. We want it to reflect local stories and needs. And this research phase gives us time and space to listen properly. It will create opportunities for people to get involved, share their ideas, which we need to take on board to help shape what the future looks like. We're also exploring how the site can contribute to Kendal's wider regeneration by supporting footfall, local businesses, and the town's cultural identity. We're not thinking short term, we're not thinking medium term. This is all about thinking long term and creating a site that reflects our values, the town's values, supports creativity and opportunities that at this stage, there will be opportunities that we can't yet imagine. And that's what the stakeholder engagement is. It's absolutely crucial. Next slide, please. Sorry, I'll stop boring everybody soon. I'm nearly there. What happens next? As we said earlier, this is a 2-year project. I know that there has been obviously the Lakeland Museum was loved by a lot of people. I think we as Lakeland Arts for a period of time went into our shells post-COVID. We weren't really communicating with the wider community. We've proactively, over the last 18 months, started to re-engage, starting to form part of that, trying to get ourselves out there more. It's starting to work. But what that did going into our shells is it kind of in the most basic terms as to when there is a vacuum of information, then different information finds a way of getting a prominent voice. And so we have now started to update our website, informing people what's happening with the Lakeland Museum. It does have accreditation. It still has its accreditation status, apart from the opening elements of it. We do still look after the collections. It is still very much on our agenda, hence this National Lottery bid with regards to bringing that back to life. What I can say is that what we're not in a position to do is we're not in a position to just open the doors of the Lakeland Museum. The museum that was established in 71 and the way that it is not really fit for the 21st century. It needs to be reimagined. And that's part of what this process is.
Lovely stuff. What a great photo, by the way, of that small chap, I think it is, with a massive hat.
That will be from our head of marketing and comms.
Looks great. Looks great.
Who is on this call and obviously marking me out of 10 as to how I have performed.
Who's that then? I'm just looking around who that is. I won't ask
Lauren.
them to
It's Lauren.
Lauren, okay, Lauren. How's he done, Lauren?
He's done a great job.
Checks in the post. Lovely stuff. And I suppose, Lakeland Arts obviously it runs Windermere Jetty, it runs Blackwell, and it runs Abbott Hall and the surrounding buildings that you've just mentioned. Have I missed anything else out? Or that's the portfolio, isn't it?
And it runs Blackwell, the Arts and Crafts House.
Yeah. Do you have a favourite child of all those, Lewis? I'm going to put you on the spot.
Couldn't possibly say, Tom.
But interesting to sort of, you focus on the responsibility you feel like you have for from an Abbott Hall perspective, the wider Kendal artistic infrastructure, but not just artistic infrastructure, the tourism infrastructure, the tourism offer. You obviously feel a clear part of that, and really interesting that you mentioned the town of culture bid that I know Kaz Graham is leading on, who I know from my BBC days. Does that feel, if we can just focus on that, does that feel like it's in a good place at the moment? Is that a realistic possibility that Kendal will put its hat into the ring?
I would say yes, and I would say that at this stage, it has as good a chance as anywhere. I think that the cultural heritage sort of Kendal is rich. I think if we're going to be honest, I would say that one of the things that Kendal hasn't been very good at doing is sort of shouting about itself, and we are all a little bit uncomfortable talking about ourselves, and I think that's been one of the things that has sort of held the town back. I think it's got huge potential. If we look at even if we look at where the Abbott Hall site is, just opposite that, you've obviously got Brewery Arts. You've obviously got the fact that the Abbott Hall site and the park alongside it and sort of Brewery Arts is used for the Kendal Mountain Festival. You've got the fact that Abbott Hall is used as part of Pride. So there is huge sort of potential there, and really turning that sort of quarter, that lower end quarter where those sites are, into a real sort of cultural hub. So yes.
Yeah. And tell us a bit about the Hepworth sculpture that's coming back, Lewis, because I know that's been in the news a little bit recently. Hepworth sculptures are astonishing things in themselves. I didn't know that there was one that belonged to Lakeland Arts. Clearly there is one. Tell us a bit about the story behind that and what's going to happen to that.
Yeah, so at Hepworth, the oval form, which is a Treasury, which was on 1962-63, that is coming back to Abbott Hall. It's coming back on the 7th of March. That's a Saturday. There's an opening at 2 p.m. And so the actual sculpture had been on tour, and it's now been cleaned. It's been conserved. It's been unveiled, as I said, at 2 p.m., 7th of March, by the Mayor. The event is open to the community. It's a really special moment for Kendal. It's a really special moment for us. And for everyone who's loved seeing this iconic work at Abbott Hall. So we're really excited about it. We received a small grant from the Henry Moore Foundation in order to be able to do the work that we needed to do. And we're really looking forward to just bringing that back to site and bringing it back to where we feel it belongs.
Fantastic. So that's going to be a permanent exhibition outdoors.
It is, yes, on the oval entrance, right by the entrance.
I know it well. Great. That's fantastic. Well, that's really good news as well. If anyone's got any questions for Lewis, now's the time to raise your hand. It feels like Lakeland Arts is going in an interesting direction, and the ship has been steadied, if that's the right phrase, and now it's all guns blazing, but in a measured way. Sue, who obviously was a fan of the Lakeland Museum.
Yeah, it's not really a question. I just want to say how pleased I am to hear that that is still in the equation for development. Really loved visiting that, both as a Lakeland social historian myself, but my kids, when they were younger, loved it. It was like the York museums with the streets and all that and rooms. And I know things have to change, like Tully's changing now, but I thought it had just been sidelined. So thank you for giving some hope that it will open again.
Sue, it is very much our intention to revisit. We have still been looking after the building. It hasn't been left to rot. We do still look after the collection. It's just been one of those periods for us as an organisation with the Windermere Jetty project, that the Windermere Jetty opened in 2019. It never really got a chance to establish itself within the Lakeland Arts portfolio because of COVID. Never got a chance to establish its identity. And also for an organisation of our size, trying to do all that whilst doing a 20 million project, there was a burden placed, and the organisation is recovered from that and is now trying to move forward. And it's now time to start looking at all our sites and as to how we move forward. So I'm glad that we're heading in the right direction.
The late Mary Burkett would have been delighted.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Kate.
So I used to work as head of Cumbria Museum Consortium for 8 years, and I left to do this 18 months ago. And Lewis and I coincided for a little while, didn't we? Not many months, and it was nothing to do with you, Lewis. That's not why I went. Just for the record. I think it's easy now, maybe a few years down the line, to just lose sight of how difficult it was to just survive through COVID and in the years afterwards. And just wanted to emphasize for organizations and individuals, but through and in the early years after COVID were just so horrendously difficult. So to manage all of these complicated capital projects as well, put massive pressure on organizations, and it feels really positive that maybe you're out of the other end of that really difficult time. I'm not suggesting for a minute that it's going to be easy from here on in, but it feels really much more positive.
I totally agree, Kate. Thank you very much. Yes, it was a difficult time. There are still sort of difficulties ahead. There are non-negotiables for us. Non-negotiables for us is looking after our collections, conserving our collections. That includes our boats, which is one of the most prominent sort of collections in Europe. And really conserving those boats that are at the Windermere Jetty and the ones that are in external storage, which we have a program for. It's like doing mini restorations of houses. It's a red listed skill. but it costs. And managing grade 1 listed buildings like sort of Abbott Hall, managing grade 2 listed buildings sort of Blackwell, the new builds such as the Windermere Jetty, they are all non-negotiable for us, but they come with extremely high sort of maintenance costs. And those are the challenges that we actually face. In the last 2 years, our income has grown substantially, but as we all know, costs have just sort of continued to spiral in that sort of period. And so it's a constant battle, but it's a battle that we as Lakeland Arts actually relish. So we're hopeful that we are definitely on. Hopeful is the wrong word. We are definitely on the right track. We have a really good sort of exec team that I'm extremely proud of. We have very supportive trustees, got a good governance model. So we move forward, and we move forward in a really optimistic way.
Great stuff. Thank you, Lewis. And thank you for your question, Kate. Just to pick up what Derek says there, what he picks up as a key message from Lewis's presentation is the vital importance of both thorough planning and ongoing communication with and involvement of the community when preparing a bid for funding. Not all organisations can easily emulate this, sadly, but I think your points there, Derek, about I think beyond just your own four walls, as it were, it is absolutely bang on the money. Thank you, Lewis, and thank you for sharing that. And honestly about the communications thing as well. And good luck to Kendal and all its component parts and all who sail in her for the Town of Culture bid, which I know other places in Cumbria are also thinking about it, particularly Westmoreland Furnace is what I pick up. But we shall see. And I hear rumblings about Carlisle going for City of Culture again in due course when that opens up in a couple of years' time or so. Obviously, Bradford's just finished there. What's after Bradford? What's the next one? Anyone know? I don't know where the next City of Culture is. No, okay. Thank you very much. Thanks very much to Kate and to Iona for extolling the virtues of We Will Rock You, and to Joe and Holly, who I know have had to go, and to Lewis there for telling us about the Lakeland Arts story. Next week, one thing that struck me when I was at the big meet was all the young animators who were there. Lots of people from Carlisle College, quite a few of them, who are into animation. So next week, we're going to see some animations of some squirrels that have been done for Cumbria Wildlife Trust by an animator called Caddy Catlow. Beautiful, beautiful animations. I really recommend those to you. We're going to see a couple of those. We'll also hear about Words by the Water, which of course is coming back to Theatre by the Lake in March. Tickets are selling very well for that, I am told. And also a nice new exhibition at the Shipping Brow Gallery in Maryport that Jack Fordry Tatum, I hope I've got his name right there, who runs Marketplace Print Studio in Cockermouth. He's done some beautiful art based in St Hilda, I think, a lot of it, way off wherever St Hilda is, like St Kilda, sorry, not St Hilda, St Kilda. Where is St Kilda? Where's St Kilda? Anyone know?
It's way off the northwest coast of Scotland, way. You have to have amazing weather to even get there on a boat.
let alone bring the...
About 40 miles from the Isle of Harris.
Thank you, Mark. Mark Baines, font of our knowledge.
I've been there in good weather. It's an amazing place.
Okay, so if you get yourself down to the Shipping Brow, I think it opens in about 10 days' time or so. And Jack is a genius. I really recommend that. So that's it for this morning. Lovely to see you all. Have a great weekend and catch you all again soon. Cheers, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.